Welcome back to our second episode of the new season of, we're calling it a season, the new season of Beyond the Pew. Today with Pastor Bruce Rosa.
I'm here. I am here. Pastor Eric Gill is
That's
here.
That's my
as
host.
well.
That's my host voice.
Yes, I was going to say that's why the voice.
Because I never get to do this. I got excited.
Welcome to Beyond the Pew. Like you're like taking it very.
I know.
Like,
very
seriously.
excited.
It sounds good, dude.
Yeah, thanks. I might do that again. But today we have a special guest.
We do.
Yeah, it's the guy who normally was behind the camera.
Yeah.
You've been part of this of this Beyond the Pew from the very beginning.
Podcast?
Yeah, from the birth
From the
of
birth.
of the podcast. Yeah.
You were
the
part
birth
of the team that came up with the name too,
That's right.
and the logo,
That's right.
Yeah.
and the time of release.
Yeah. Well,
What else do you do?
I mean, some content here and there. I feel like we could revisit the logo at some point, though.
At some point,
I
yeah.
understand that. John,
But, yeah. I was gonna say, what's your name and what do you do here?
Yeah, okay. My name is Jon Louvis. I have the privilege of serving the church kind of as like a marketing guy. So I help with communications and graphic design, visual direction, all that stuff. I've been doing it for, really since my wife and I moved here to Ohio. Been involved in some capacity. So it's been like 3 years almost that I've been involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, and if you want to connect some dots, your wife is Kelly Louvis.
That's right.
Who used to be our previous women's director.
That's right. She was, yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
she's
awesome.
not anymore.
She's not anymore.
Sorry.
No, I mean we miss Kelly. Chris is doing a fantastic job. Kelly did a great job as our women's director, and she's still involved here at the church, and so we're grateful for that. So, but John, we appreciate what you're doing, and a lot of people don't know that you're doing communications and marketing, and yet they're seeing the product of you serving in that capacity. So we appreciate you in what you're doing. You're doing a lot of important things.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I kind of like being behind the camera, being in front of the camera. This is a new experience for me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, how long have we done this for? Like, or how many episodes have we had? Like,
I don't know the answer to that.
How many
Over-
seasons?
Over 50 episodes.
Is this
I would
season
say.
3?
Season 3.
Season
And
3.
this is the first time that your face is in front of the
That's
camera.
facts.
It's pretty cool.
That's fact. Well, it's an
But-
honor.
Yeah, but back to marketing, because I think that, like, you know, what is your job title?
Marketing and communications director.
Director.
But
So, like, when you think of a church, that title sounds more like a title that you would find in, like, a business. So, like, why would you say that something like marketing and communication, it is so essential for the church?
yeah, I think marketing gets a bad rap just because like you associate it with like corporations, you associate it with business, you associate marketing and advertising with like revenue growth, right? Trying to make more money, trying to increase profits. But that's not the goal at a church, right? The goal really is to just get our name out. We want people to know that Maranatha Bible Church, like my philosophy with marketing for Maranatha is I know that Maranatha is a gospel preaching church. I don't know of all the other churches in the area. I don't know what their statement of faiths are, right? I don't know their standard of conduct, but I know that Maranatha is faithfully teaching and following biblical commands. And so for me, it's like if anyone in our area wants to learn more about Christianity, wants to learn more about the Bible, wants to begin a relationship with Jesus Christ, I want them to think, oh yeah, Maranatha, I've heard of that church. I've seen the M logo. I know some people that go there. They've talked to me a little bit about it. I want Maranatha to be top of mind in our community. So that's really the purpose of marketing, because without marketing, you don't have that.
Yeah.
So again, it gets kind of like a bad rap because it's very like corporate. But the reality is it's just spreading awareness, right? Like you could spin the word marketing to just be awareness, and then everyone's like more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important because if you have, for lack of a better term, a product you want people to be aware of.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Marketing, advertising, communications is going to be essential. It's going to be necessary. And it used to be, many years ago when it came to the church world, there wasn't social media and there wasn't so much of advertisement and there wasn't so much of, products that are being thrown in people's faces and drawing and vying for people's attention and time. We live in a day and age now where we want to get in front of people what
Yeah.
we're doing as a church, because if we don't, they're completely unaware of it. And to your point, there are other gospel preaching churches in the area that are healthy churches that are ministering to people, and they equally want to put in front of people what they're doing. So part of the role you play is putting in front of our people as well as potential
Other people.
people that would be aware, hey, there's something happening here.
Yes.
And if we believe in it enough, we want everybody to know about it. And so it's a huge, thing, but it's also very important for the
And-
church.
And the goal of marketing isn't, at least from my perspective, let's take like members of other Bible believing,
For sure.
gospel preaching
Like
churches.
you're not trying to steal customers per se. Like,
Right. Yeah, no, not at all. It's more if you're an individual that's looking for a church, right? If you've never been a part of a church, if you're not a Christian, or you're just beginning to like form a relationship with Jesus Christ, then I think Maranatha is like the perfect place for you. And so if you don't have awareness, they're never going to come here. They're going to end up somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think it's like your job is so unique and so new that there are some misconceptions and there are some like hesitation. Like
Sure.
in my background, like I come from a Baptist church, a small Baptist church. That like if you whoever brought up, like, hey, we need someone on staff that is responsible for marketing and communication, you either get laughed or you get put into church discipline, because that's unheard of. Like we don't need those things. We're only going to preach the word of God, which
Right.
we do need to preach the word of God, right?
Right.
But that idea of like, oh, we got to add all these other layers for that to happen is unheard of. So, like in your experience, what are some misconceptions you face when it comes to this idea of marketing or communication?
Yeah, I think the misconception is just that the church, like, you market to grow to make more money. Right? Like, I think that's the misconception, is that ultimately, and it comes from, I think, we've seen church leaders kind of abuse like position and power and use it to kind of line their pockets. But, I've seen the back end of the numbers that Maranatha here, your pockets are not lined. No one's pulling up in a Maserati, right? Here at, right?
Not yet.
Not
Not speaking of me. Like I'm thinking about some Bruce.
Not yet, he says. That's accurate, John. Yeah, that is
Very
accurate.
accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think when it comes to misconceptions about marketing, you're talking like it's easy to assume that, man, they just want more money, they just want more people in their building, they just want XYZ. When the reality is, we just want the gospel to be heard. We want more people to be reached. And you need an effective communication strategy, an effective marketing strategy to do those things. So it's really not at all about bottom line. I mean, I think something that people don't even realize, and I don't know if this is true for other churches, but I know for us that when we sell church merch from our store, it's all sold below the cost that it takes to get it. So we're losing money or meeting the cost of every single article of clothing or merch, whatever that we sell. Not an ounce of it is profit. Not a cent of it is profit, And so I think there are just some misconceptions. And for me, in my experience, they've all those misconceptions have been around just revenue.
Yeah. Because there's like an air of like, you see all these mega churches or these churches where they make it a perfect to market themselves as if what they were giving was an actual product.
Sure.
Because they're trying to make profit out of it.
Right.
Yeah, and obviously we don't know
Right.
the hearts and what ultimately the goals of other ministries are, but there are examples, and sadly a few examples are enough to spoil everybody's example of how people have capitalized or abused right marketing and communications for profits. And so I think one of the things that people kind of misconception as well is they don't have any idea of the amount of ministry happenings that are going on in any given week, let alone per month at Maranatha or at some other churches where, we have ministries to every age group, right? And every in-between age group. And we have, a balance of church ministry versus community ministry and outreach ministry. And so that also, I think, is a misconception, is that almost someone giving eyes to marketing and communications isn't really necessary, because is there really that much going on? And the answer is like, yes, there is that much going on, as you know. And so people miss that sometimes because they're unaware of the amount. I mean, people don't even know, like, there's a lot of communication that they're not getting because they're not in a particular area for the communication to be received. Right. That is happening on a weekly basis. And you're navigating all that, and you're kind of structuring all that. So it's a huge need, and to your point, it doesn't have anything to do with the leadership of the church saying, hey, how do we make more money? How do we get more income? How do we expand our budget? It has entirely everything to do with, we want as many people as possible to be impacted with the gospel. We want to do it in an orderly way and with excellence. And so one of the ways that we've identified to do that is through a communications and marketing strategy that allows people to receive what we want them to receive for the benefit of the gospel. Right. So
I think, sorry.
No, go.
I think one of the things that was really like, it was a curveball for me when I was a part of the staff full time, right? When I was doing this job full time, it was, I never got like hey, Jon, we want to grow the church by 20%. So we want you, like, that's your goal for this year is to grow our congregation, grow our budget by 20%. Yep. There was none of that. It was just like, hey, we just want people to be in the loop on what's happening here.
Which you have been in other roles, not at Maranatha, but in different places where those things have been communicated. And because you have had similar roles, like the one you have at Maranatha now and other places, and those things have been communicated to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any marketing job I've ever had other than this one at Maranatha has been, hey, the purpose of your job is to grow leads, is to grow revenue, is to grow XYZ. At Maranatha, that's just never been on the table. You know what I mean? It's always just been, hey, our people need to know what's going on. How do we make it easy for everyone to know like what's happening here at Maranatha?
And I think that like something that kind of like opened everybody's eyes, or at least most people's eyes, to the necessity of what you do was during COVID. Everybody was isolated. There was limited access to things. And so now everybody, not just our church, but most churches, we're trying to figure out, how do we get our stuff out to the people? So involved communication, like even this podcast, like you were part of that conversation. It's like, hey, how do we encourage our people beyond Sunday? How do we, or encourage and challenge our people beyond Sunday? So like we sat down and we discussed, okay, this is a way that we could do that by creating, something as simple as a podcast, but you mentioned early, like merch. Like I think in merch is a big misconception as far as like, why spend money on that? Why is that something that a church, why should a church sell something? And you may have somebody that would quote that passage where Jesus comes and flips tables because you've turned my house of the Lord into a marketplace, but something like a merch, like Bruce right now is wearing a hoodie from Maranatha. I'm wearing a hat from one of our ministries, the Well, monthly gathering.
Some good marketing.
Yeah. If you are 18 and 35, we would like to see you there at the last Friday of each month. But anyways, learn from the best. Why would something like that be beneficial?
Sorry. Why would church merch be beneficial?
Yeah, like why would we spend money on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that anytime you wear a brand, you're a brand ambassador, whether or not you like it. If you're wearing a Nike shirt, you're communicating like a particular set of values. Even if you don't necessarily agree with everything Nike stands for, you're still saying to some level, I like this brand, right? And I want to be okay with this brand. I want to be recognized to a degree, right? A lot of the times it's unconscious. But with church merch, to me, it's a great conversation starter, right? If I'm at the gym and I have Maranatha Bible Church, like I'm wearing a Maranatha Bible Church hoodie, someone sees that, maybe I have no idea where anyone else is at in their walk with the Lord. If there is a walk with the Lord, might just be like, hey man, I've seen you here a couple times. Can you tell me about that church? Like what is that? You know what I mean? Or it's an opportunity just for us to say like, we're a part of a community. And we are thankful to be a part of this community at Maranatha. Like if you don't love being a part of Maranatha, you're not going to wear Maranatha merch, right? So we're saying something about like who we are as a church body when we wear things that represent, Maranatha.
Yeah. No, and it's also, it can serve as a conversation starter even for those that are not church people or unchurched people, right. Or, people that notice, hey, I notice you're a part of a church because you wear consistently church, merchandise, whatever. Can I just ask you a question about what I'm dealing with in my life, or about God, or about, and people gravitate towards that. I think sometimes we underestimate, that's how people respond to people a lot of times when they show that forth. And so a lot of people don't know as well, the shirts and the t-shirts that we have, coffee mugs that we've had, different items that have had the Maranatha logo on it that we've wanted to put in people's hands. You're responsible for that merchandise. You're responsible for what goes into that and putting that in front of everybody. And again, that's a important part. And someone has to do that. And so you're that guy, right? You're the guy that's coming up with these creative ideas and ways that we can put this in front of people. And so we would encourage people listening, see this not just as, hey, here's a shirt, hope you like it.
Yeah.
But see it as an opportunity, right? To be able to represent the church, represent Christ, and do so in a way that we would like to see fruit come from that. So it's more than just a t-shirt or a hoodie. Yeah. It's an opportunity that we're presenting to people.
It's not just something that you will get just to go painting or just when you're mowing your lawn. You have an opportunity to use this as a tool, and next week we're talking with Pastor Brian Jones about evangelism, and that could be, something that could initiate some conversation when you're like, hey, you're part, what is Maranatha? Even that, what does Maranatha means, Yeah. And then that creates some conversations, What is there any other misconceptions that you face when it comes to that idea of marketing in the church?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any other ones. I think it's just it's a very corporate word. And that makes people uncomfortable, right? Because they want to believe that they want to believe, and they would accurately believe that the church is not part of a corporate entity, right? We're not interested in the bottom line. We're not interested in revenue, right? We're the body of Jesus Christ. And so we're trying to build the kingdom. We're trying to share the gospel. And so marketing and communications it's just part of how we do that. My heart for marketing, even when it comes to how it impacts the people within the church, is that it would make studying the Bible, that it would make praying, that it would make sharing your faith easier, right? Aesthetic matters. Nice graphics catch your eye. Yeah. And so I think a large part of marketing, it's not just the show. It's how are we equipping our congregation? How are we, kind of enabling them to study God's word deeper, to have a more vibrant prayer life? Those are all things that I'm thinking about, and that all of us, right? Yeah. That's just the job of the ministry staff. How are we doing that? I said ministry. I'm not part of the ministry staff. I just lumped myself in.
But you are. Well, there's purpose. There's purpose behind.
You made it.
There's purpose behind the things that we're doing. Right? If we don't have a purpose for it, then chances are we're not doing it. Yeah. There is a purpose behind it, and it's not a worldly, temporary purpose. It has eternal value. Yeah, and so sometimes that's easy to separate that when we think about the area of marketing and communications, but there's an eternal value to the things that we're trying to accomplish and do. Yeah. And everything goes back to that we want. So even in our understanding of our church, we want our church to connect, grow, and serve, right? People have probably heard, if they're listening to this podcast and they've been at church for any amount of time, they've heard connect, grow, serve. They've seen it written. They've heard it talked about. Well, that's marketing and communications, right? Is that we're putting it consistently in front of people's hearts and minds, these things that we value and that exalt Christ and that help the believer in Christ to grow, and they kind of walk hand in hand as we're doing that.
Yeah, and to follow on to that. So, as a church, we said it. He just said it again. We stand, or we value, connect, or serve. We want every one of our members and even guests to come here, that they will connect with God, and that they will connect with each other, that they will grow into a relationship with God, and that they will serve each other and God. And so, those values, how do you see those things being incorporated in something like social media? Because social media is a venue that in marketing, you utilize it, you have to utilize it, And so even with that, there are some hesitation, or is there some question is what is the value of social media for a church? Should a church have a presence in social media? But, our church, Maranatha, let's take that as an example. How do you see our values being incorporated into social media?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, at the end of the day, we're trying to meet people where they're at. You know what I mean? We it's easy to expect, I think, as a church sometimes, and maybe any kind of, entity can fall into this, but it's easy to expect people to come to you instead of thinking, no, we need to go to them. We need to make it easy to know what's up at the church. We need to make it easy to share what's up at the church. We need to make it easy, right? So you had shared a stat the other day. I don't know if you remember it offhand about the
yeah.
number
He
of
does.
people. Yeah, hit us.
Yeah. So there's just over 5 billion people in the world that have internet access.
How many
And-
zeros is that?
And I'm sorry, say that again.
How many zeros for a billion?
Billion? Yeah, that would be what?
9.
9. It would be 9 zeros and then your
then a
first
4.
digit. Yeah. So there's over 5 billion people in the world that have access to internet, and of that 5 billion, there's like 4.8 billion that are on social media or have social media accounts, which is crazy. That's 97% that have a social media account.
Yeah.
4.8 billion people.
Yeah.
And by social media, we mean Facebook, Instagram,
TikTok,
Twitter, X now, not Twitter.
Yeah.
So
Do either of you have TikTok?
I do not.
no, I mean that would be a would be a red flag. Yeah.
Really?
If you had a TikTok, Bruce, how old are you? 45?
What? I'm 45. You saying only young people? You saying only young people can have TikTok? I mean, I don't. but
Why are you defending it?
Why are you making it up so old? If I were to have a TikTok,
I don't know.
Wow.
Why are you looking on
but
TikTok?
you'd be okay. You'd be okay. Your
I'll be
age.
on that
At
verge
your
where like I
age.
got 2 more
Okay.
years left.
Okay, very
you?
well.
31.
Yeah, it seems like younger people are
So
more.
33 is the cutoff
Yeah,
for
yeah,
TikTok.
that's the cutoff, yeah.
Thank you.
Good to know. I didn't know this.
Bruce is at that point where he only should be on Facebook.
That's mean. That is mean.
Listen, I don't. That doesn't bother me the least bit.
I know. That's the only reason.
I don't really
should.
care.
That's the only reason
At
why I
least a
say
little.
it.
The social media stuff is not. You're not going to get under my skin. Okay, whatever. I don't care. But when it comes
But
to social
anyways.
media, the numbers show forth this is where the world is.
Yeah.
Right. And so, to the question he's asking, how much of a part should that play as it relates to even our church people listening? Like, should they, how can they engage with people? Because they're already there. They're already on it. But how should their mindset be affected, like as it relates to the church and our involvement on social media?
Yeah, I think it's just an easy way to be involved. It's an easy way to spread awareness about Maranatha Bible Church, right? Like you might not feel comfortable just yet having a conversation with your neighbor about what's happening here at Maranatha, but maybe they follow you on social media. And so that's just an easy way for you to kind of let everyone know. It's the easiest way to let everyone know, like, here's what's up at the church. Like, you're free to join if you want to. Like, here's kind of a representation of who we are as a church. Like, so I think social media is just like, it kind of gets like a bad rap, I think, a little bit, or I think people underestimate the value of it, right? But we're trying to tell a story about who we are as a church. Yeah. And again, going back to that idea of meeting people where they're at, like they're clearly on social media. Yeah. And so when we post as a church, when our congregation reshares what we've posted, it's just meeting people where they're at. And again, the goal is we're not trying to like steal members from other churches or anything. We're saying, hey, I've got people that I follow and follow me on Instagram that don't know Jesus. And so, or they, we've had some conversations about Jesus, but nothing has really like come to fruition just yet. Yeah. And so it's just an easy way.
It's exposure.
Yes.
Yeah. And let's be honest. I mean, I'm not on Facebook all the time, but I know on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, now X, people share things that I'm like, why did you share that?
Yeah.
Right? There's so many times people share something. I'm like, you really wanted that on your account, that people would see you're sharing this. Things that are meaningless or things that are maybe funny, maybe not, or they're intended to be funny. But people share. Like they share and they like things all the time. And what we're saying as it relates to social media presence is that if there's people already there regularly engaging with that from the church, and the church has something happening or going on or something that's challenging, like and share it to people. Like that could have impact on people, right? Yeah. And that's a huge kind of like low-hanging fruit that's there for people in our ministry to be able to say, I want people to be aware of what's happening. And for God's glory.
And we on a previous season we talk about social media specifically.
What season?
I don't remember exactly, but one
season
of them,
2?
Maybe season 1. I think
it was either season 1 or season 2. if this is the third season, you're like, I'm not sure. Maybe season 2 or maybe season 1. Yep.
Nonetheless, we talk about how we understand that there may be some individuals that they don't like to engage with social media because they let's be honest, there's a lot of garbage and
Absolutely.
and how do you say
toxicity?
Yeah, in the platforms, and so there are people that don't want to engage in it because of good reasons, and we're not saying here what's the word? Your conscience,
don't violate your conscience.
Don't violate your
Yeah.
conscience. We're not saying that, but we are saying that as a church, we do recognize that there is an opportunity. There is a very clear opportunity for us as a church to be able to put content, to be able to put things out where people are at. Because the reality is, like, people are going to be there on social media, whether you or I are not there. Like, people will continue to be on social media. And so as a church, we find that value. We want to meet them where they are. And I know you, Bruce, like we joke about it earlier, but this is not a joke anymore. You are on Facebook and you do something every Monday,
Correct.
which is what it is.
Yes.
Something simple as what?
Yeah. So on Mondays on Facebook, I just post every Monday morning, good Monday morning. How can I pray for you today?
Every Monday.
And I've done that for years.
Yeah.
And instantly people share prayer requests, and not just on that actual post, but people will private message me on Facebook. Sometimes I get a text message. Sometimes I get emails that they'll email and say, hey, I know you asked for prayer requests this morning. Could you pray for this? And so there has never been a week that has gone by that I have posted that every Monday morning where I have not received prayer requests and people, and not just from people who are believers in Christ. Like I have, same as you, individuals that will engage that do not know Christ or ask for prayer requests or share some pretty vulnerable things through that platform. And really that's like the only thing I ever post, to be honest with you, from a personal account, is just a Monday prayer request. And so it's very effective because everybody's almost like a captive audience waiting. I mean, there are people, the second someone posts something, they instantly are responding. It's almost like people are waiting just for anything to come in their feed and they're going to respond.
Yeah.
And so there's a healthy balance, right? Like as a church, we're not encouraging people that should not be on these social media accounts because of temptations, because of difficulties, struggles, time management, etc. There's plenty of reasons why people won't be on there. What we're saying, though, is that if you are and you're engaging and you're sharing and you're doing things, there's a huge ministry you can have to people through what we're trying to accomplish, even through the social media platforms. And you're like heavily involved in that. So
yeah, I think it's easy to it's easy to just write off social media.
Yeah.
Because it's so accessible and because it's so easy, I think it's just easy to just be like, social media doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, like people are there. And so it is only a positive to share, right? Even if everyone just scrolls past it, ignores it, whatever. If you get one person that says, I want to know more about Christ. I want to know more about this church. I want to know more about this community. And they decide to come to an event or come to a service, then it has all been worth it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And like some practical examples, to start with, just what you do on Mondays at basics just shows that there is a need, or that there is an audience in those platforms that are either looking for some type of level of community, or an audience that is struggling, that is hurting, that has needs. And so what a great opportunity for the church in something as simple as social media to come alongside and to be able to meet some of those things, or to be able to reach to those people, So I think that's pretty neat. But on another practical side, how often, we post an event, and the event happens and we see people are coming in that were like, who are you, or how you get here? Oh yeah, I saw you guys. So I saw a video, or I saw an announcement, or I saw a post that somebody shared. So there are some values in social media as far as reaching the people, So John, with your role, as the communication director, marketing director, if you had someone from our church sitting in front of you asking them, hey, I got social media, and I don't really engage, but I have it, but I would like to be more engaging with it for the purpose of reaching those people, what should I do?
Yeah, I think the easy thing is just reshare content. If you've got a social media account, it takes 2 seconds to hit share to your story or repost it on Twitter or X, whatever. It's an all upside play, right? You know what I mean? There is no, it harms no one if you reshare it. It doesn't clog up your timeline or whatever, right? It's just you post it and then you're done. And so there is only positive that can happen, in my opinion, from that simple act of resharing. And then I would say on top of that, right? because I don't know necessarily the demographic of who listens to Beyond the Pew, but if there are people that are, if social media is like a passion of theirs, if photography or videography is a passion, you enjoy creative work, graphic design, things like that. I mean, you can serve the church with those passions, you know, and man, could we use additional people
on our team.
Yes, we could use the congregation, because right now we have it's mostly staff involved in graphic design and visual direction and social media and all that. But I think it would be so awesome to have the congregation more actively involved in that whole process. Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my plug.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I like that you said, like, as a volunteer plug in, you know, like, hey, if you're gifted, you're creative, there is a need for you. We can take part of this. But no, I think that what you do is so essential and so needed for in our current world, because the reality is, again, there are people that are hurting, and one of the places that they go to cope is social media.
Sure.
And we have an opportunity to have a presence where we can teach them and engage with them in that capacity, with the hope that we can bring them here, right, to the local church. So I think that you said it great. Like, if you're watching and you have a social media, like, I would say, even as a pastor, I would encourage you, like, hey, anytime you see something being posted from the Maranatha page, first of all, you should follow us, which is, what is our handler?
At Maranatha Bible Church.
At Maranatha Bible Church.
Yeah.
You know, so you should follow us there to start with, right? But anytime you see something being posted in that page, like, I will encourage you to reshare it or to engage with it. You know, even with Beyond the Pew, like, as you're watching this, like, you should, like, I will encourage you to share it, post it, whatever, just because there is an audience out there that is hurting, that is looking for some type of community. And sadly, they're looking for them and they're finding things, but all in the wrong places. And we have an opportunity to be able to engage with them. Again, we're not wanting for you to violate your conscience if this is something that you don't do. But if you do have social media, you don't have any problem engaging, we will highly encourage you to engage with what we post or what Maranatha posts.
Yeah. I think it's easy to, even with a request like that, to just write it off, because we're so used to the influencers, right? Like, subscribe, reshare, whatever. And at the end of the day, they're all doing it. Again, it just comes back to this concept of, like, revenue, right? They're doing it because the more followers, subscribers, whatever, more visibility they have, the better brand deals they can get, the more money they get from YouTube or advertising or whatever. Maranatha doesn't benefit from any of that. So these requests are really like, hey, just help us reach people.
Yeah.
That's the I think the mission.
Spread the word.
Yeah, spread the word. It takes 2 seconds. It's super easy. It hurts no one, and there is only gain, positive gain, right?
Yeah. And so, you know, we talk about this each week with the podcast, the desire, taking outside the church walls and living out the gospel, living out and impacting people. And a lot of people might have started listening to this and see that we're going to talk about marketing, communication, social media, and think, like, what could that possibly have anything to do with living outside of the church and having an impact?
I think everyone thinks it's really cool, actually.
Do you really? You think they think you're the cool guy. John's the cool guy over here.
He gives the best trades for fantasy football.
But the point is, going into you know, the world, and going into our daily living, our everyday living, marketing, communications that we have coming out from the church is on purpose for a purpose. Yeah. And so as people see, okay, what's the point of marketing communications? What's the point of what you're doing? It literally is to be able to put in people's lap, in people's hands, opportunities to communicate and to share the things that are happening in the life of the church, not only for people who will benefit that are within the church, but those that are outside the church to see something's happening here and God's at work here. And we want to tell that story. We want that to be known. And our people engaging with that plays a huge part in that. And so if you're listening, you know, that's a role you can play. Every person can play that role. Yeah. And so again, we're thankful for what you're doing.
Yeah, we're very thankful,
Making
John.
tremendous impact.
It's like the nicest you guys have ever been to me.
Yeah,
absolutely. The cameras are rolling. It's only because the cameras are rolling. That's the only reason.
Any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts, man? I think again, like what you guys have said, really wraps, like really kind of succinctly states the mission of marketing. Yeah. I think I would just encourage everyone, on top of what you guys have said, is it's one thing when you reshare a Maranatha Bible Church post. You're a pastor here, kind of everybody expects it, right? Yeah. It's a whole nother thing if our church body really engaged the reach just explodes. All of a sudden, so many people, if more of our congregation is involved in this process, so many people now know what's happening at Maranatha, what we're about, and ultimately, hopefully we'll hear a gospel presentation and receive Christ as their Savior. So that's the vision.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. John, do you know how we end each episode? With what question?
As someone that's been listening forever, I don't.
Really?
John,
You
something about behind the pew.
I
Okay,
don't
I
even
on.
believe that. I don't even believe it.
Yeah, there's no
That
way.
as a partial...
something beyond the pew. Do you look at the cameras when you say it?
Wow.
You gotta look at this camera right here.
Do something beyond the pew.
Yes, it's
Wow.
what does your
life looks
Oh,
like
okay.
beyond the pew.
Okay.
May
Wow,
be
John.
glorifying to the Lord.
Yeah, John
Okay,
will
nice.
never be back on this side of the
this
camera
definitely.
again.
Keep in
Yeah,
mind,
so back
he's
over
been
there.
on with
Yeah.
us since the beginning.
Yes.
And he used to
I
sit
know.
behind the camera every episode for
I
season
know.
1.
Used to though.
Season 1, yeah, that was it.
forgetful, right?
Season 1. Yeah.
We appreciate people tuning in.
Yeah,
So
thank you so
next
much.
week-
We'll see you next week with Pastor Brian.